1, 2, 3.
Hello, welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Diane Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explain the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Enjoy the show.
Diane!
Yes.
I met your friend Josh last night.
Yes, you did. Patreon Josh.
Patreon member Josh. I was sitting outside the bar that I work at, as I often do, and a guy was walking in, and he just immediately was like, "Hey, Ben, how are you?" And I shook his hand, and I had no idea who he was.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Yeah, but it's not foreign to me at all. Like, I hate it when it happens, but it happens all the damn time, because I just see like a slew of faces in front of me when I'm tending bar, and you try to be nice to every one of them. I fail at that all the time. But the guy was super nice, so we started talking. We talked for like 5 minutes before he was just like, "Yeah, my name is Josh. I'm friends with Diane. I was the Patreon member who did the Boxers episode of Morrissey." I was like, "Holy shit, it's great to meet you."
Nice.
It was really nice. We had a real good long conversation. So super good dude.
Yeah, I went to high school with them.
It felt good because it's like the Cash Bar is out into the world, you know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes for me, it's like we record these and then I promote them on social media, and then I don't really hear a whole lot back. Like that was the first time that somebody in public had come up to me and said, "I've listened to your show and I know who you are because of that." And it was really touching. So thanks, Josh. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Josh.
That was really nice.
Well, he's the one that sent me a message after he heard last week's episode the episode where Jeremy was talking about going to a bar, and it was the best dive because like just the bartender was sleeping on the couch and then a regular will get up, and Josh texted me and he was like, "That had to be Big Star Bar, right?" Sorry, I'll bleep that if I'm supposed to.
No, it's all right. It's fine. It's
And
fine.
he goes, "I think I've been the patron that just gets up and makes the stranger a drink before." So
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the greatest place in the world. I love that bar. I'm probably going there right after we're done with this.
All right.
This is going to be a fun episode for both of us. Our guest today is the co-host of the Lima Time podcast. We had his co-host Patrick McClellan on a couple of months ago. He was a lot of fun. James Yasko. James, how are you?
I am very well. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor, and I'm terrified, and I'm also really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be terrified about.
No.
Everything's good. This is going to be a fun one because you chose a band called the Pernice Brothers that I hadn't heard of until last week, and I fell in love with them.
They're great, right?
While I was listening to them, they're fantastic. Like this is what I needed. Like I'm in my mid 40s now. Like I'm old. I don't expose myself to new things anymore. Like I need somebody to shove it in my face, and I really thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's I mean they're still active and they're still making music, but we're like, just from listening to past episodes, we're not terribly far apart in age. Like I'm in my early 40s, but it's still like I kind of stumbled on them very randomly when I was in my early 20s, and so it's sort of like it's kind of nostalgia for me, but it kind of takes me back to when I was actively seeking out new music rather than listening to the same playlists and you know the same thing over and over again. So yeah, no, I'm very. It seems like a lot of Pernice Brothers fans kind of look like us. Like I feel like that's there's a demographic there and we fit it.
So yeah, I listened to him too, and I was like, wait, this is my music. This is the kind of music I like. I don't know how I missed this. And so trying to research the band, like there's not a lot out there. There's a Wikipedia and there's a website, and I was looking at all the information. I'm like, where are you from? Like I couldn't even figure out where they're from.
Yeah, no, they're from Massachusetts, and I saw them live in 2006 at the Iron Horse Bar in Northampton, Massachusetts. And it's a very long, weird story, but we lived in upstate. My wife and I lived in upstate New York for like 3 years, and you know, I kind of came across the Pernice Brothers a couple of years earlier. We were about to get on a plane, and I was looking for a music magazine to read. And there was a magazine that's no longer in print called No Depression, and the Pernice Brothers were on the cover, and I was like, I've never heard of this magazine or this band, so I'm gonna buy this magazine. And then, you know, that was, I was morally, I took full advantage of Napster when I was in college.
Yeah.
And then I developed a sense of morality, and I was like, I can't do this. So it took me a while to actually find like a CD, and once I did, like I was hooked. So yeah, no, they're even better live than they are on the album, which is always a fun surprise.
Oh, it's really
We're
nice.
just saying something, because they were. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. You know, I went into it with no expectations whatsoever, and I was blown away. Like it's the kind of rock, like, I don't know, adult contemporary sounds like a silly label.
It's not Sunny 99.1. It's a little cooler than that.
Yeah, but it's not like loud guys trying to shock you, or it's like I don't get the impression that the Pernice Brothers are trying to get their dicks sucked out of this. They're not trying to fight, and they're not trying to get hammered. They're not, you know what I mean? It's not like the rock and roll bacchanal you expect from. It's more mature and more thoughtful than that. And I was really grateful to hear it.
I was trying to relate them to someone like back in that time. I was doing the same thing, James. I was trying to like get into like music again, because I kind of quit in college, and I was out of college in like 2004. And this is a wrong comparison, but I'm trying to think of another band that's kind of like that I liked that was like this, but I think of like the Shins or something along the line of just like, it's just good music, good lyrics. Yeah. Nice, soft voices.
Yeah, and I'm a total sucker for melody, and one thing that if you go further into the Pernice Brothers catalog, like they do melody very well, and you know, Joe Pernice has a very nice voice, and you know, it's sort of thoughtful, intelligent lyrics. Like they had a song, one of their first albums was called Overcome by Happiness, and they had a song called Chicken Wire. And you know, you listen to it, it's like, oh yeah, no, I can listen to, like, this is something I can read a book to, or I can kind of have playing in the background. And then you like listen to the lyrics, and it's about like an attempted suicide, and you're like, oh God, like this is like it's not the Sunny 99.1. I grew up in Pasadena, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not Sunny 99.1, but it's you know, it's something that you can just kind of have. And I've had it sort of with me for a good 20 years now, and I every chance I get, I'm like, you got to listen to the Pernice Brothers, and so that's why I chose this song.
Yeah, tell us why. So we're gonna do Water Band. Why did you choose this song specifically?
It's the soaring guitar. You know, I was looking at the lyrics, because that's not something I'd do. I'm a sucker for packaging. Like if like I will buy jelly. I'll buy $6 jelly if it says it's the wild Maine blueberry jam. I'm like, that sounds freaking amazing. And it might not be good. But like the soaring sort of guitar towards the end, there's not a ton of lyrics. You know, it's not anything like super complex, but it's the guitar riff there, kind of as it kind of pops off towards the end. That's why, because I think it highlights sort of the Pernice Brothers lyricism and musicality as well. So that's why I picked it. It's a nice blend between their two strengths.
Got it. And I'll definitely clip in the sound too, so people can hear, especially the guitar riff at the end.
We're gonna sell some Pernice Brothers albums today, folks. Here we go. The Pernice Brothers, Water Band. These are the lyrics.
There's a mark on me, love song burning up in effigy, two roads diverging in a lovely dream that only two can tell.
There's a mark on me, love song burning up in effigy. So we've arrived right away. Like, I like the way, I like it when a song acknowledges that it's a song. You know, like it's not, you know, like sometimes like comedy can get, when it gets too meta, you're like, okay, stop it. You don't need to deconstruct the whole art form.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You are not Andy Kaufman. Stop trying.
Yeah.
But when they do it in a song, when a singer acknowledges that they're singing a song, like that appeals to me for some reason. I don't understand why it does. It's like, okay, great, you're singing to us. I understand. Two roads diverging in a lovely dream that only two can hear. That's a strange sentence because most love songs are about broken hearts. Most love songs are about love that has gone away, or love that has died, or love that has been twisted. And I think this one is about that too. But it's a strange sentence to say two roads diverging in a lovely dream. Like, well, if they're two lovers diverging, how is that lovely?
Yeah.
Like I've had a couple of split ups in my life, and they were not pleasant experiences. They were really they were really ugly, shattering things. So I would never describe it as a lovely dream.
Well, that's how the song starts, but I think as we keep going through the lyrics, it's a little less lovely.
Yeah, it builds.
Yeah.
Like I think like he's giving room. You know, he's definitely giving himself some room to travel here.
It's hard to understand the cruel summer of a water band, a dead brass cradle and a water can to hold our prayer for rain.
It's hard to understand the cruel summer of a water band. You know, I like that. When I heard that the name of the song we were going to be doing was Water Band, I was like, I wonder where he's going with that.
Yeah.
You know, what's the word I'm looking for? Metaphorically, right?
Right.
The cruel summer of a water band, a dead grass cradle and a water can to hold our prayer for rain. That's what it's like. That's exactly what it's like when the two of you are sitting there trying to hold it together. There's no rain falling. There's
no
nothing
hope
that's going to help your plants grow. But you're still just sitting there, like, just staring at each other, like, is there still hope? Can we save it? Can we save it? I want to save it. Do you want to save it? Tell me you want to save it.
Yep. Yeah, I picture like a couple just sitting there with an empty watering can, just like the metaphor of like hope in the rain, like just something, please fill this back up so we can stay together and grow this some more. But like, you're in Arizona, buddy. It's not happening.
And they're literally sitting in their own garden where like they've been to Home Depot and bought those azaleas together. You know? Like, you remember the day we planted that? It didn't live, did it?
So the crazy thing is, like, I used to live in, we moved back to Texas. I grew up in Houston, but we moved back to Texas from Nashville, and there was no music. If someone my age says, y'all know I lived in Nashville for a while, like there was no attempt to get a record deal. Like I didn't even, you know, I have a guitar, but that wasn't the point of living in Nashville.
Okay.
But I was at a friend's house and you know, someone had, you know, basically like plug your phone in and play a song you want, and I played this, and everyone seemed to, you know, like it well enough, and I emailed Joe Pernice and I was like, hey, Water Band went over real well. He's like, yeah, everyone loves a good song about a drought. And like that's where he was. I was so in getting ready for this, I was like, all right, you know, some background, anything. He's like, no, I was going to visit my parents, and the sign, you know, that welcomes you to town said there was a water ban in effect. And he's like, I've never heard a song that used the phrase water ban. That's where it came from. So like it was a literal, like, I guess, drought wherever his parents are, and he just sort of built a song around it. And in typical Pernice Brothers fashion, like this is sort of the direction that it went.
Let's back up a second. So you're friends with Joe Pernice?
Yeah, I was like, you can't just gloss over this. Most of our guests are like, hold on, I just called the singer. It was like, can you tell me what this was about?
Joe Pernice and I have been buddies for quite some time. I might have buried the lead there. So, and again, it's not. I mean, I know I'd love it if a bunch of records got sold, but I genuinely love this band, so that's why I picked the song.
How did that happen? How did you? Because you said that you found them on the cover of a magazine that you've never read, and they were a band you'd never heard of. How did you make contact with them?
Okay.
He's like, well, I just did a little stalking. It's not a big deal.
a little bit, but it paid off. From two, I mentioned my wife and I lived in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And we lived in Cooperstown, New York, which is the home of the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that's where I worked for 3 years when my wife and I got married.
Whoa!
Isn't that amazing?
When we got married, you know, we were, you know, I was 23, she was 21. We were way too young to get married. And if our daughter does what we did, then I'll freaking disown her. So, you know, we were like, where do you think we'll live? And I'm like, the only way we'll ever leave Texas is if I get a job at the Baseball Hall of Fame. And then it somehow like it happened. And
Do you
so
manifest that? That's the
I
hot
guess
topic word.
so weird. It's still so bizarre. And
Hang on,
so,
I
you know,
might
it was
diverging. We'll pick up with Joe Pernice. And now I'm curious about the Baseball Hall of Fame. What did
Okay.
you do with the Baseball Hall of Fame?
it sounds I was in the education department. And
Okay.
so like if I say I worked at the Baseball Hall of Fame, like, you know, there's a million images of what I would be doing there, like that come to mind. And really, I was teaching kids from Jersey by video conference how to do math using like baseball. And
fun.
you'd like, you know, you'd ask a kid and like just head to toe in Yankees gear, you know, like what's 3 divided by 5? And, you know, with an expletive mixed in, it's like, I don't know. Because he's like 8 and from, you know, South Jersey and or North Jersey, I guess. And so I'll be like, okay, all right, pump the brakes. Like if Derek Jeter goes 3 for 5, what's his batting average? It's like 600. And like, you just did math. You converted a fraction into a decimal. And it like blew their minds. And, you know, so that's what I did. Like there were museum educators, and there were like 16 different education programs you could take, from like civil rights to women's history to, you know, math and, you know, science. And we, you know, talk about how, you know, the actual physics that go into hitting a baseball and all of that. So that's really, I just taught education classes. That's what I did.
Wow. Okay. So how did you meet Joe Pernice?
Okay. So like the first, like my like I'm from Pasadena and my wife's from Baytown. And so like the first winter in upstate New York, we were like, this is so cute. It's like a snow globe. This is amazing. It snows all the time. And then like the second winter, we're like, it's freaking cold again. Like what? Like we spent July 4th like watching fireworks with sweatshirts on.
Yeah.
And then the third winter, like I fell off the roof shoveling it to keep the roof caving in from the weight of the snow. Yep. And you're from Canada, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But like I didn't get hurt. Like I fell off like a 2-story house like into a snowbank that was maybe like 6 feet below me. And that's when I was like, it's we got to get the hell out of here. Which is what led to Nashville. So I knew that we were leaving. A couple years earlier, the Pernice Brothers recorded a song in honor of like the 2004 Red Sox, you know, World Series. And so like we were leaving in like a couple of weeks. And so I found his agent like on the website. Like I didn't look all that hard. And I was like, hey, I work at the Baseball Hall of Fame. It seems like Joe is a big baseball fan. If he wants a tour of the Baseball Hall of Fame, like I can give the legit tour because I'm like friends with everybody. And so I get an email like 30 minutes later. But I did say like, but there's kind of a time crunch on this because we're moving, you know, pretty soon. So like 30 minutes later, I get an email and they're like, what about next Tuesday? And I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm mailing it in as we speak. So yeah, no, I'll certainly take a couple hours out of the day. And so it ended up where there was some travel involved that would take them near Cooperstown. And so I ended up giving Joe a tour, you know, and I called I called in like the big guns. Like he got to hold, you know, Carl Yastrzemski's bat and you know, the Babe Ruth glove that he pitched in. And ended up awesome. My wife took a picture of him in front of like this bat rack that was down in the archive. And Joe Pernice went on to write like a New York Times bestselling novel. And he ended up using that picture as his author photo.
Oh my gosh.
So my wife has like a photograph credit in like the New York Times and Rolling Stone because they like Joe Pernice wrote a book. And what it also did was the Hall of Fame didn't know, like the upper level like didn't know that we'd done that. And so it sort of led to a more restrictive presence in the archives after we left. So sorry for everyone who came after us.
You got to invite your favorite rock star to come visit you at your job.
Yeah, and then we went and had lunch, and it was like an hour and a half long lunch. And it was great. So, and no one said a word because I was leaving. So whatever.
That's great.
I'm gonna send an email to the REM website. It's like, if Michael Stipe's ever in Houston and he needs a beer in a Manhattan, you tell him to swing by. I got it covered.
That's really good.
It's just amazing. Do you guys still do you keep up contact or
We'll text each other, fairly frequently. So I'm just a super pleasant person. Just kind of a joy. You wouldn't think that from listening to some of the or reading some of the lyrics that that he writes, that he's a pretty normal guy. Just has a Bachelor of Fine Arts in English, and you can tell he's a good writer, and just happens to be a really good musician. So, and it is a huge baseball fan. So, just a very, we still talk every now and then. It's sort of we'll go through a couple of days where we'll text each other, 6 or 7 times in a day. And then that's it for, we all have those friends that they're kind of like a whack-a-mole that when they pop up, you talk and catch up real quick. And then it's going to be a few months before it happens again.
Yeah, for sure. Those are the best friends too, because they're not the ones that are like, you didn't text me, or you haven't talked to me. It's like, well, you haven't either. People who know just know we're fine.
Yeah. Now, if something was wrong, I'd let you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're people you can trust the connection with.
Right. Where we leave off.
This is my favorite line in the song, and he uses it. It uses it in 3 different ways, which is a thing that I love it when songwriters do that. But,
Be the same, and we suffered every courtesy we made.
be the same. Have we severed every courtesy we've made? That one. I'm still going through a breakup. I have been for the last couple of months, and when I read that line a couple of days ago, I was just like, well, that's exactly it. That's precisely what it's like. When you're having those ugly fights, those ugly arguments, and it goes that little bit further. You think you set up the borders, okay, this is where it is, but then you find yourself I'm digging at her and she's digging at me, and we're going after the sensitive spots.
Yeah.
It would never occur to me to put it as gentlemanly and as succinctly as have we severed every courtesy we've made. It's just the nicest way to put it. I'm looking back on arguments that I've had over the last couple of years. I wish I'd thought to say something that polite, that reasonable, that it encapsulates absolutely everything. But just the next time you're fighting with your partner, say, are we severing every courtesy we've made?
Oh God, if it's one of those nasty fights, we're both saying nasty stuff, and then you pull that line out of me, I'm gonna be like, oh, go fuck yourself. We're not doing this right now. God damn it, Ben. Go write in your notebook. Now's not the time for poetry.
Tell it to the Moleskine, asshole.
And then the next day in a text, I would be like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. But in that heated moment, I'd be like, oh, give me that shit right now.
I mean, it sounds like it's a very upbeat song, but it's really not. And my wife has told me that I have 2 genres of music that I'm an absolute sucker for. And it's the sugary sweet, cavity inducing pop music. I've had Blank Space by Taylor Swift stuck in my head for 5 years. Or it's just this sort of sad bastard music and the Pernice Brothers are definitely there's some sugary sweet elements to it, but it's sad bastard music.
I love it. Music. You have to go listen to our sad songs episode. We pick our top 5 saddest songs, and then we talk about even more sad songs. I mean, it's just it's a whole episode just dripping in all sad fuckery. It's great.
I will do that tonight. I guarantee it.
There's a mark on me. We're back to the song again. There's a mark on me. Scorched earth lovers, is that all we'll be? Roads diverging in a living dream of hope and love and time. Yeah. So it's eternal. It's
over.
Yeah. Well, it's over, but it's also one of those ones where as soon as he says it's the opening line of the song, but there's a mark on me. That's it. It's a tattoo. It's a scar. Every now and again, you're in a relationship that crumbles or something happens in that relationship, and whether you maintain it or not, it's going to be there. It's not going anywhere.
This one's going to hurt forever. And even if he got remarried and had a bunch of children and grandchildren, this one, he's going to still remember on his deathbed, I think.
Yeah. It's written on your bones eventually. And I think that's what he's talking about. So what I like about that line, be the same, because here it comes again. It's be the same, though we've severed every courtesy we've made. So he's not asking the question anymore. You know, he's just saying, like, okay, that's what's happened. Like it's over with. But he's still saying be the same. You know, to me, and maybe I'm thinking this line differently, but to me that one means that okay, we've been through this, we've had this ugly fight, we've had this ugly exchange, or whatever this is. But I can still ask you to be the same. Like I can still make that promise to you that I can do that. Like I can go back to normal. I can make things as they were, or I can move on from this. It's almost like I like the way that he's pleading with his lover here. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's doing it in a reasonable, thoughtful, masculine way.
Yeah.
I like how the first verse, because it's really sort of a first verse chorus, second verse chorus. Like that's sort of, you know, that's sort of the extent of it's not this Bob Dylan, you know, where there's, you know, 27 verses and no chorus whatsoever. You know, it's a very succinct song, but it's like the first part is like asking a question, and by the time you get to the second verse, like it's asked and answered. Like it's you know, question, answer, guitar riff, let's get on to the next song. Like the next, you know, the next chapter. It's just very boom, boom, boom. I love that about it.
And I like that's sort of the coda, like the end of the song. He goes, now we've severed every courtesy we've made. But the last line is, have we severed every courtesy we've made? So he's back.
There's a little hope.
Little hope.
Yeah, there's always hope. And that's what made this song so sweet to me, is the way that it ends. I don't know if it was the version that I was listening to on YouTube, if it was clipped, but I really like the way that this song ends. I mean, like the moment that it ends. Like there's the soaring guitar and everything like that, but the version that I listened to, it just quit. Like it didn't end on a chord, it didn't fade out or anything like that. It was just like, and we're done. Is that the version that you listen to, Diane? Is that the version as it exists?
I don't remember now.
It was I'd never heard a song that just kind of just like, and we're done. Like there was it didn't, like I say, it didn't fade away. It didn't come to a crescendo. It was just like, and we're cut off.
Yes, no, you're exactly right. No, there's the little sort of it's not finger picking, that's not the right word, but it's sort of, you know, kind of variations on a chord, and then boom, that's it. And then it goes into the next song, which is also fantastic, because that's a perfect album. That is, if you ask me like what is a perfect album, like this album is, to me, is absolutely perfect. And how it's edited absolutely plays a role in that. And because it does just, you know, you think it's going to go on for another 15, 20 seconds just to pad like the runtime of it or whatever. And it just doesn't. Like that's it.
Yeah. Like we said what we needed to say, and we're done. No fluff.
I like that. I think it works with the lyrics of the song too.
For sure.
Yeah.
I read 2 or 3 articles about the Pernice Brothers. I read everything. I read their website. I read a couple of like basically like fan blogs and things like that. But it's kind of like they're called the Pernice Brothers. Here's you can help me with the history, but I guess so. Joe Pernice is the lead singer and songwriter of a band called the Scuds.
That was early on, yeah. Scud, was Scud Mountain Boys was
Scud Mountain Boys.
Yeah.
But he breaks up the Scud Mountain Boys as they're like, they have an album that has some measure of success, and obviously he's a very young man at this point, so like that's looking that it's going to break. But he breaks up the Scuds so that he can form the Pernice Brothers with his brother Bob. But his brother Bob is apparently not a professional musician, though he is a very good guitar player. But his brother Bob doesn't record or tour with them. Like he performs with them on either like the first 5 shows or the last 5 shows of their tour. But he I guess he writes songs with his brother, but he's not. But Joe Pernice is still very much like I guess what I'm trying to say is they're called the Pernice Brothers. There are 2 brothers in the band, but it seems like one guy is driving the ship and the other guy is what? Like, do you know what that relationship is like?
I don't. We've never actually talked about Bob. But I'm reasonably sure Bob exists. But you know, in sort of the back of my mind, it's like the Ben Folds 5 thing where there's only 3 of them. It might be more cool if Bob is just like a split personality.
Yeah, I was gonna say too.
that Joe kind of channels whenever he needs to. I think there's a brother.
Bob writes the lyrics, Joe plays.
Yeah, and there was a guitar player when we went and saw him that he was just, you know, freaking phenomenal. And his name was James Walborn. And he's a British guy, and I'm like, my thing is like 90s era Britpop. Like that is my jam.
Oh wait, a little Oasis, a little Blur.
Yeah.
I appreciate Blur. I love Oasis. I saw Oasis at the Ariel Theater in was it 97 there in Houston. And a corner shop opened. Like it was a 90s Britpop wet dream is to have corner shop and Oasis play in Houston. But he's this guy James Walborn was like phenomenal guitar player, and within a couple of days, like we were about to leave New York and move to Nashville, and Joe texted me. He's like, "Hey, thanks again." He's like, "James is actually going on tour of the Pretenders. Like, do you want you want to get on the guest list?" Just as kind of like a thank you for setting this up. And we're like, that you don't have to do that, but that'd be great. So we ended up going to Albany like 3 days before we moved and going to see the Pretenders, and we met Chrissy Hine.
Oh my gosh.
And all of that. So, there's kind of it seems like there's a very rotating cast of characters. They don't tour. The Pernice Brothers don't tour often. Like it's sort of one of those, they'll play Boston, New York, Philadelphia. And then that's the whole tour. Like there's not, and I guess that's what happens. Like I wouldn't be necessarily interested at my age going on, this big nationwide tour and playing, 200 shows in a year. That you do it whenever you feel like it, and you don't make a big deal out of it. And so like I don't know that the Pernice Brothers have ever played in Texas or really outside of I saw them in Western Massachusetts, so I think, there's a lot of what it seems like is that there are a lot of musicians that respect, the Pernice Brothers. And if you get out, you want to go on tour for a week or two and you say, yeah, and you make it happen. And that's that.
It's really cool. They kind of just stayed local.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they still
I've never met anyone else when they're like, what kind of bands do you like? I'm like, have you heard the Pernice Brothers? Like, I've never met a single other person that's been like, yes, that's yes, I do know the Pernice Brothers.
I'm gonna try to change that in my own little way. Like I control the music that gets played at the bar that I work in, and I'm definitely gonna put the Pernice Brothers into the rotation.
There you go. You should just do like their whole album all night to where someone's finally like, who is this? What is happening? You're like, aha, I've got your answer. Thanks for asking.
I'm really curious about the Scud Mountain Boys from the little bit that I read about them, because what I read, they said that they were like an alt country band. And having listened to a little bit of the Pernice Brothers, which seems like more of a straight ahead, like art rock band, like the Pernice Brothers are definitely like in the genre of music that I like to live in.
Yeah.
But alt country is sort of like a little further down the street for me. You know what I mean? Like there are things about it that I really, really like, and parts of it, like because it's like I'm from way up north and I'm English, so what do I know about country music? Fucking nothing. But when I listen to what people call alt country, there's always my ears prick up a little bit, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is from the woods. This is from in the mountains somewhere. That's kind of where I'm from.
I don't even know if I know what alt country is. Like, is that like country that's trying to be more pop, or is it like Avett Brothers? Like,
I don't know. Like the first time I heard somebody referred to as alt country, it was Ryan Adams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going. Like,
or like drive-by truckers, or
Jason Isbell might be alt country.
Yeah.
But like if you say alt country, like I go to Ryan Adams, and I loved Ryan Adams until it was not acceptable to love Ryan Adams.
Yeah, he messed up
anymore, and I haven't listened to Ryan Adams since. But it was that sort of, I guess there's sort of the elements of country, but it might be a little bit harder, and the lyrics have a little bit more of an edge, and it deals with more real things than tractors and sexiness and cold beer on a Friday night and
patriotism. Which is fine.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how I don't know much about country music, but I think in the way that I have it set up in my head is alt country was kind of the umbrella that real country music got put under when Nashville changed its tone. You know what I mean? Like when Nashville was just like, okay, we just got to sell a whole bunch of records, and then it became like Shania Twain, Garth Brooks,
Right.
good-looking butts in jeans. Like everybody who could actually write songs and was interested in writing good songs ended up like, okay, well, we're on the old country circuit now.
Interesting.
That's the way I see it. I don't know if that's true.
I think there's an element of the I like country music, and the songs that I write would be considered country, but I'm also not pretty or in shape. So that means I'm alt country. Like I think think there's an element of that.
Yeah. But I mean, Conway Twitty wasn't pretty either. I don't know. I guess depending on who you're asking, but but there did become a time when, and this happened in all genres of music, when you no longer were allowed to not be good looking and make music. Like the 60s, 70s, you could be like Leonard Skinner. I mean, you could be so ugly and make good music, make great music. And then things like shifted hard, like in the 80s and 90s, just like, no, you got to look good too.
Yeah, it's MTV, I think, is obviously to blame for that. Like you
there
have
you
to
go.
look good in your videos.
Yeah.
Like you just have to. There's
one of my
for that.
One of my favorite songs of all time, and it's I don't know that it's not a guilty pleasure because I don't even feel guilty about it. But it's Hold the Line by Toto. And the video, it's so, everyone looks so preposterous, and you can tell like that the Toto's look worked for the time frame that they were in, and also for the radio, because you didn't see what these dudes actually looked like. And it's so funny to go back and like watch the video to some of like, you know, like the 10cc and sort of if you were making like decent music before, when the music video wasn't such a novelty, like what people actually look like, and you look at it, you're like, there's no way you would be popular now just because you look ridiculous. Like, what is that beard even doing? And that became more of a rather than your sound, it was your sound and your look. And I think you're exactly, it's MTV's fault, and MTV has ruined things for a very long time.
They're trying to be, I was gonna say there was pushback with grunge. Like these guys tried to be like, no, we're ugly, but like, come on, Kurt Cobain was hot, Chris Cornell was hot, everybody was still hot, you know.
Like those guys did enough push-ups to be considered hot, no matter their facial irregularities. Like they were still conforming to that a little bit. The one that I remember the most in the like probably 96 or 97. Do you remember Blues Traveler and their lead singer John Popper?
Yeah.
Who was a very big fella. I just remember him sitting at first of all, this is the first time I heard like a rock star like really rail against labels. Like, it doesn't matter what you call it, it's just good music.
Yeah.
And then he stood up and he just said, look at this face. And he turned around and pointed to his butt and just went, this butt is not selling albums to 14-year-old girls.
And then he lost
that was the last ugly man of, Oh, did he really?
Yes.
Yeah, he's quite fit.
Yeah, and we met him at my friend's wedding. Her after party was at Hotel Zaza, and he was there and just drinking at the bar, and everybody got to meet him.
How would you recognize skinny John Popper?
I didn't. Someone else did. I was way drunk. But everybody was like, John Popper's at the bar, because they had just played Houston, and he was staying at the hotel and just hanging out down there.
I thought you were gonna say that Blues Traveler played your friend's wedding. I was like, it's a long way down
that's
for
a
those
cooler
guys.
story. Yeah.
That would have been great.
No one would have fact checked that. You should have just gone with it, and we were like, "Oh man, yeah, that's freaking cool." Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you're done talking about what you're talking about, Ben, with the Scud whatever, but like we have to get into your Rolling Stones thing, James. If I'm getting it correct, the story correct. Like, tell it. What did you do, and why did you do this?
I can tell you what I did, and at this point I cannot tell you why. Okay. So I teach school, and last year was very strange, as it was for a lot of schools, you know, across the country. Basically, you could come to school and I would teach you US history. And if you did not come to school, but you still logged in to I had to record every lesson every day. I would do it on a Sunday afternoon, and I just spent like 2 hours recording the whatever we were talking about for that week. But if you were not present at school that day, I didn't take attendance. I didn't take attendance until like 2 days later, because if you logged in to the online service, like, you were still counted present. So there were days where I would walk into class like ready to talk about like the Gilded Age or World War I or whatever, and there's nobody there because everyone was like, I'll just do it online today. And you know, there were a lot of very valid reasons. Like I teach at a not terribly well off high school. And you know, so my first year there was a freshman girl that got pregnant, and you know, she's 14 and now she has a baby. And so you know, there's a lot of issues where you know, mom and dad had to work or mom had to work, and there was nobody to watch the kids. So I'm gonna stay home and I'll just log in and watch them do whatever assignment I have to do. So there was an awful lot of downtime. And there'd be some days where it's like there's 2 students in there or one, and be like, and I'd sit there and be like, this is freaking awkward. You know, it's just like me sitting at a desk across from you teaching you about World War I. Like that's real personal. Like, so like, you know, if you want to go down that road, like we can do it, or you can just watch the lecture online. And 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, I'm good. Like I'll just watch this and I'll do the assignment. So there was a lot of downtime, and I'm like, I need a New Year's resolution that doesn't involve like I'm gonna lose X amount of pounds, and I'm still, you know, busy doing things. So I don't want it to be I'm gonna read X amount of books. I want it to be something that I can achieve, but it's also something that can be kind of in the background that I do over the course of a year. So I decided like September of 2020 or something like that. It was fairly recently. Rolling Stone updated their top 500 albums of all time list, and they came out with one, and it skewed like super, you know, classic rock and super white and super male, and so they updated it to be a little bit more inclusive, and they got like a whole, I don't know how they determine like what order does this, you know, did they have debates, you know, on in the corporate boardroom of Rolling Stone where like Questlove is yelling at Axl Rose, you know, this album's better than this one. So anyway, however they came up with it, they released a new 5, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I was like, you know, it's maybe 2 albums. It's an album or 2 a day. And during school, like I might not see anybody. Like we had remote days where the students all just stayed home and we worked, you know, in our classrooms, and you wouldn't see another person all day. I'm like, I could knock out like 5 or 6 albums, you know, on this day.
I just realized how wrong I had this in my head. I thought you were listening to the Rolling Stones, the band, every song they ever did.
I'm sure I did over the course of this cursed list, like freaking stupid ass list.
So you really got through all 500 of the Rolling Stone top 500 albums? You listened to them all?
I started on January 6th, 2021. With number 500, and on December 27th, 2021 at 5:15 in the morning, I listened to their quote unquote best album of all time.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I listened to some bullshit. Like, I mean, you have to understand, like there were some things that I had an Excel spreadsheet, and I can show my work. I can send it to you. I can send you a screenshot. Like, what day did I listen to this album? And like a 1-line review.
Oh my gosh.
There was like there's a lot of like, okay, I don't like the Smiths. And there was a Smiths album.
Louder Than Bombs.
I don't think that I think it was it The Queen Is Dead?
The Queen Is Dead. Yeah.
So that was on. I was like, I actually like that way more than I thought I would. Like that's better than I thought. But there's a whole lot of like, I don't, why am I still doing this? Like, this is I'm torturing myself at this point. So
I imagine there's albums that were like part of whole genres of music you don't like, you know, and I was going to say something, you're like, fuck you, I love Mary J. Blige, but something like, you're like, I don't like this, but I had to listen to
2 Mary J. Blige albums. If I remember, there's at least one. I was like, oh. And the crazy thing is like, you know, if you pull, and I didn't listen to compilations, and they did include maybe 20 or 30 like is like 3.5 hours of Howlin' Wolf. Like that's not one album. Like I'm not listening to that. And I'm not doing greatest hits. Like this is album to album.
Right.
But you know, it's sort of funny. You can look and be like, well, this is from 1967. Like this, I might like this. I might not. And then you see it's like a rap album from like 1996. And you're like, this is gonna be 90 minutes, like minimum. So you can tell like how trends sort of shifted over time. But yeah, I mean, there was stuff, and like, you could tell that someone was like, we don't have any jazz on here. And there'd be a run of like 4 or 5 albums that would be like a Herbie Hancock album,
Right.
which was like jazz fusion, which I'm like, this is terrible. I don't, but I understand you want him to be represented here, but I really hate my life right now. Not only am I listening to this, but there's a pandemic, and God knows if we're gonna survive. So it was I did it. It actually took me about 6 weeks. It's only been in the new Spoon album woke me up to music again.
I
Like,
was
I've
gonna
had to-
ask, what was your high and low in this? What's the album that you found that like, oh my God, or one that you're like,
Right back.
never again? Go ahead, Ben.
There were a lot of Never Again albums. But there were a few albums where I was like, I forgot how good, like the Clash London Calling.
Yeah.
Like that's the one that I had listened to before, but it wasn't until like this particular re-listen that I was like, that's a freaking good album. Like that's good start to finish. There was a lot of Whiplash there. I'm sure there are a lot of albums I listen because I try to listen to, like, I know, like, I'm married and have a kid. Like it's Friday. I'm not going to be able to listen to anything over the weekend.
Right.
So I'm going to knock out as many as I can on a Friday. But like there was one, it was like early on, it went from like Black Flag, which I do not like, to like a John Mayer album. And like in my note, I was like, I think I liked this more than I actually did, because it was John Mayer, and it wasn't
over Black Flag.
it wasn't Henry Rollins just like screaming at me with his massive neck. Like
Right.
So number 4 was Abbey Road.
Okay.
And so like number 3 and number 2, number 3 was like Joni Mitchell. I think number 2 was Stevie Wonder, which was great. And then number 1 was like the Beach Boys. And like each note was like, that's not better than Abbey Road. That's not better than Abbey Road. That's not better than Abbey Road. So there's a lot of like preconceived, biases that went into it. I don't know that I'm glad I did it, but I did actually do it.
It's impressive. It's very impressive. So congratulations. It's a feat.
It's a marathon, and it's a very noble thing to do in quarantine. It's way more noble than anything I did in quarantine.
I was very close to being fluent in Spanish. And
we started a podcast, Ben.
Yeah, no, a great podcast. Like the Spanish thing is, if you don't use it, you will absolutely 100% lose it. Like I can't tell you anything right now. But there was about a 2-week period where I was ready to go to Mexico.
Ooh.
I took like 100 days on Duolingo, and I was getting fair. Like I was making reasonable progress. Like I could have back in my girlfriend at the time was from Colombia, so we could actually like have day-to-day like functional what are we doing conversations in Spanish. But
that's cool.
We couldn't actually communicate.
Yeah.
Beyond what time is it and what are we having for dinner.
You have to go like live in those places and immerse yourself in it where no one speaks English. That's like the best way to do it, they say. Okay, before we get to Jeremy's thing, maybe I should do it after. Oh, okay. I know I'd already asked you about it, James. My husband's mom is from Waco, and so he spent a lot of time in Waco, and he's like, you have to ask James if he has seen the DONKS of Waco and donk culture. And for people who don't know, who are listening, just Google donk culture Waco or DONKS. They're cars. They're cars with crazy dumb wheels. That's all I can explain.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, I had seen it. I didn't know that that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And so like I did Google it, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, yeah, that's straight up Valley Mills Drive. Like that's what that is. And so like Saturday nights, and I don't do it because I'm not about to get T-boned by somebody who's like, hopped up on, 17 margaritas driving, an Impala with, 96-inch wheels.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's sort of, and I thought it was like, well, this is like the UGK, like this is slab culture. Like that's what, and I think it's sort of a variation of that. But it's weird that there's a very, and after I Googled it, like when I was driving to the grocery store, and you see all these like tire shops, and you're like, that's where they're getting all this.
That's
like that.
Okay.
So they're that's the thing.
Yeah. Everybody just Google it because the pictures are funny, especially the ones where it's like they're promoting different things like Trix cereal, or, it's like kind of like you see with the race cars that are like, they're promoting a brand, but they're really funny.
There's one. There's the Lucky Charms car.
Yeah.
And there's it's straight up. It's a straight up Lucky Charms box, but it looks like something you would see in a UGK video.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, and I don't get it, but I do respect it. So yeah.
It's good photos. All right, should we get to 6 Degrees of Tinted Windows with Jeremy Essig? See how he connected tinted windows to the Pernice Brothers?
Let's see what Jeremy's got to say. Yep.
Let's do it.
Hey friends, welcome to a post-hiatus edition of 6 Degrees, where this week we're going to try to connect tinted windows to the Pernice Brothers. Much like Diane and Ben last week, I was also completely unfamiliar with this band, and a bit nervous about how this would go, but upon looking them up, I found that their guitarist, Tom Monahan, also played with Fruit Bats, and at that point, we had our way. Fruit Bats is a name used by singer-songwriter Eric D. Johnson for some of his projects that include a back-to-front cover in 2020 of the Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream album. That album and band, of course, featured guitar and writing from James Iha, also the guitarist from Tinted Windows. So surprisingly quick this week, we went Pernice Brothers to the Fruit Bats to Tinted Windows. Back to Diana.
Thought we were gonna stump him. We didn't stump him. Not even close.
I'm sorry, Dan. I couldn't hear him. I didn't want to interrupt in case it was going to mess with the recording.
Could you hear James?
No, I couldn't. I thought that was part of the deal. Like I'm just supposed to like nod thoughtfully. Like that's
I wonder why that's never happened before.
No, that was definitely new.
Huh. All right. Well, I'll add it in post. But yeah, it was so easy. The guitarist for Pernice Brothers, something about a band called Fruit Bats, and they covered the Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream, and James Iha is in Tinted Windows.
Tinted Windows.
So
it made it easy.
Yeah, made it easy.
Fruit Bats are a great band.
Yeah, these names of bands that I've never even heard of. I'm like, okay, all right, I got a lot of homework to do here.
I don't know the Fruit Bats either.
So good.
All right, James, one of my favorite parts when we have a guest, me and Ben used to, in the early years of the early episodes, we always told a guilty pleasure, and then we just ran out. I was like, I don't have more than 60. So when a guest is on the show, we get to ask, do they have a guilty pleasure song?
I've already mentioned Blank Space by Taylor Swift, but my 100%. But again, I don't feel guilty about, like, that's just a good song, like whatever. My guilty pleasure song is Breathless by The Course.
Yeah, we got that in common.
Like I absolutely, like, there was a period of time where, like, my wife and I, we don't really go out to eat all that much, and so a lot of our time is spent at HEB, and it came on during, when everyone was real serious about wearing masks. And I was so thankful for that mask, because nobody could tell that I was absolutely feeling that song and singing every word, but nobody could see me on the cereal aisle. I love that song. And I've had this, like,
dancing through the cereal aisle.
This dream that I'm like the random dude, like, and I think I just made up, like, I'm Jim Core, like that's gonna be that's my alternate personality. Like I'm the one brother of the Coors that just kind of shows up and hits a tambourine every now and then.
I feel like grocery store playlists are just guilty pleasures. Doesn't it seem like you're always in there just like, I mean, it's so hard, like, because usually I like to listen to my a podcast when I'm in the grocery store, but if I forget, I'm subjected to what they play, and then sometimes I'm just like, and I'm never gonna dance again. Like I'm just dancing through the cereal aisle. I'm just like, they're getting me.
Like that's all to plan. There's got to be like a grocery store playlist science where it's like, how do we lull them into buying more ice cream?
It's really funny. I'm surprised they don't like pipe smells through there too. Just like, you smell cookies, now you want cookies.
They probably should. Or different music on the wine aisle, like sad songs on the wine aisle. Yeah, that's another 4 bottles.
That's funny. That's perfect.
It's like Eye of the Tiger playing in the fresh vegetable aisle. There's all different.
I'm gonna get in shape. Yep. I'm gonna do some stairs. That's awesome. Well, James, this was great. You're a great guest. I love people that know their history and love their music and and just are friends with the band that we're covering.
This was not a paid promotion. I swear. I've long tried to evangelize people. If I was as good about telling people about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as I am about getting people to listen to Yours, Mine, and Ours by the Pernice Brothers, like I'd be a saint by now.
Yeah.
So Yours, Mine, and Ours by the Pernice Brothers is in my top 5 albums of all time, and it's a delight from start to finish.
Oh, I hope we get more people listening to them now.
I am going to download it right now.
I just forgot we talked about this before the show. So before I let you go and before you promote yourself, you're going to be a part of you're going to help us decide next week's song. So next week, our Patreon winner gave us 4 options to choose from, which usually isn't hard, but he gave us 4 very good songs. So we're going to talk about these, and James, you're going to help us decide which song to do.
Okay.
All right. He gave us Leonard Cohen, Hallelujah, which I was like, all right, he knows Ben loves Leonard Cohen. Did he just throw that out there to make Ben choose it?
Yeah.
City of New Orleans by Steve Goodman. Steve Goodman wrote that. Great song. Somebody to Love, Jefferson Airplane. That's my least favorite of the 4, but I won't say anything. And then For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield, which is a great
Didn't
song.
Steve Goodman, isn't that David at the end of You Never Even Call Me by My Name, in the where David Allan Coe says a friend of mine named Steve Goodman wrote that song?
Yeah.
So Steve Goodman, hold on, what song did what was the one that was written by Steve Goodman?
City of New Orleans, but usually hear someone else singing it.
That dude was on fire there for a while.
Yeah. My two favorites are City of New Orleans and For What It's Worth, but I mean, who doesn't love Hallelujah? But I
really want to do an episode on Hallelujah sometime, but we did Leonard Cohen like it was
recently,
only a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
I also feel like we were just in New Orleans with the House of the Rising Sun, so I think for me it comes down to Somebody to Love and For What It's Worth.
Okay, I'm all right. So thanks to my little Rolling Stone project, like they were real heavy on late 60s American albums that I ended up hating. So you said Jefferson Airplane and Buffalo Springfield, and immediately it was like someone like made me smell
I thought it was back there.
I seized up a little, like someone like made me smell a pickle or something. I was like, no. So I was gonna go with Leonard Cohen, but I will pick For What It's Worth.
Deal.
That's what I want to do because it feels, I don't know. I mean, we get into, we got to stop children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. It feels current,
Yeah, it really does. I mean, that's what timeless music does. Like, I mean, and that song was written in a similar era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still doing the same problems.
Yep. All right. So that's what we're going to do. Stephen Stills, Buffalo Springfield, For What It's Worth. That's what we will be doing next week. Thank you for helping us out with that, James. All right, James, before we let you go, promote yourself. Where can the listeners see and hear more of you?
Hopefully see is not a thing. But so the Lima Time podcast is on Apple and Spotify.
Yeah.
We vaguely talk about the Astros, like that's what it's been, but we've been doing it for like 6 years now. So we end up, I think we talked more about my favorite soccer team than we did about the Astros in the last episode. And then Pat's wheels off, and it's great. Like I quit trying to do show notes. Like I'm in awe of how much research y'all do in advance of the show, because it's just kind of like I'll get a text like, you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I got an hour, and we'll just like, there's no plan whatsoever. So if you want to hear like a wheels off show about the Astros that might actually spend a few minutes out of an hour talking about the Astros, then Lima Time is your thing. And I do a little bit of freelance stuff for the Houston Chronicle, and that's definitely all Astros related. So Houston Chronicle, Lima Time. Don't come sit in my classroom and try to cancel me or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. You're definitely a guest we'll have to have back one day. Oh, and you became a Patreon, so that means your name goes in the bucket to give us a song to talk about. So we're definitely going to have another song from you coming up soon.
We're going straight 90s. We're going like real 90s Britpop with the, if I get that call, then y'all better start listening to Kula Shaker or something like that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Deal. Absolutely.
All right, James, we're going to kick you out now, but this was so much fun. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
All right.
Take
bye.
care. Thanks a lot. That dude is fun to talk to.
Oh yeah. I knew that was going to be good.
We need to have him and Patrick on together
Yeah.
if we can. Is that gonna be that's gonna be four talking heads? It might be too much.
It's I can mediate this, I think. If I have to just mute somebody every now and then, be like, hold on, it's his turn. Hold on.
That was a fun episode, man.
That was so good. So, all right, you guys heard it. We worked it out in front of you guys. So next week, Buffalo Springfield for what it's worth. This was a good time, and thank you guys for listening.
I'm gonna go donk my Honda. All right, stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody, look what's voguing down.
Ugh.
1, 2, 3.
Rock the Cash Bar is produced by Diane Gallagher, music by Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins. Special thank you to Jeremy Essig for 6 Degrees and to Sara Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Our website is rockthecashbarpodcast.com, and there you can find links to our Spotify playlist and to our Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.